In this project, we're going to design this mobile app with these flat animations, sort of a user design, simple user design animation. And there's lots of aspects to this, so I'm going to break this project down into several videos, one where we're building out the app, one where we're animating it, and then one where we're adding some more effects like this cool little reflection down below. So you can follow along with the weather app animation project, or you can build it completely from scratch. So let me just break down what's happening in this. So first, within the phone sort of itself, you have this app where this weather app has the morning, day, and evening. And each of these has a little pull down where you can find more information like the temperature, if it's sunny or cloudy, the humidity. You could add any information that you want. And so this runs through a couple different options, pulling down to see the morning and also the evening. And then also with the morning, you see that we have this animation of the sun. It's spinning around, and then you have like a cloud here, and then the night. Okay, so lots of cool stuff going on. So the first thing we want to do is build out the app. So to do that, let's start a new composition. Now for this one, we're going to make it the size of a typical screen on a phone. And a lot of screens nowadays are the 16 by 9 format, but vertical. So for our width, we would choose something like 1080 by the height 1920. Now that's a vertical 9 by 16 aspect ratio. So now if you click open, you see what that looks like. I'm going to turn off the title action safe just so we have a clean project. So let me set up our background layers. That would be these 4 tabs basically. Let me rename this to app. So first choosing our rectangle tool and then choosing the colors. So I kind of went with this sort of orange, sort of red look. With your timeline selected, double click the rectangle tool and that will create a full rectangle. Go up to the view options and click show grid. This creates a grid on your composition that's not in your video itself, but it just helps you align things. And if you go to view and make sure snap to grid is on, that's going to be helpful too. So I like naming these background layers to the name of the tab itself. That will help us. So for this one, we'll call it morning. Then I will duplicate it. Call this one day. I think that's what I called. Yep, day. And I will change the color, just something a little darker and maybe a little bit more orange. Now let's move this down and you'll have to count it out, but if you move it down 6 spots in the grid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 blocks, then it's going to be evenly spaced. So let's duplicate this, call this evening, and change the color to maybe something even more red, a little bit darker. Move it down 6. I'm holding the shift key down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There it goes. And with the snapping on it, it does help. Duplicate this one more time. Call it night. Change the color to maybe something like a little bit more purple. Something like that. And drag it down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there we go. Make sure it's lined up. Okay, there we go. So now we have our 4 tabs, which is cool. And we can turn off our grid now. Next, let's add our text. So for the top one, I will just choose our text tool, click here, make sure we have it set to white. I'm going to use regular Helvetica, and I'll call this day. And then let me just remember what information I have. I have the temperature. So within this text layer, I'm just going to press return and add a new line, 56 degrees, and on a Mac that's Option 0. So on a PC it should be like Alt 0, I believe. Then I'm going to press Enter a couple times. Sunny and humidity. So sunny, humidity at 25%. And for these two things, I'm going to make them smaller and a little bit closer together. And with these top two, I will add a little bit more space. So what I want is that the sunny and the humidity text to be below this line. So let me just bring up the scale just a little bit and make this a little bit bigger. So you can do this with the sizing of the text, or you can do this with the sizing of the layer itself. So like that. So now if I put this below the morning, and this should actually say morning, what am I doing? That looks pretty good. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So now that's behind all these other tabs, except for the morning and the degrees. Let me duplicate this and put it in front of everything at first and drag it down right there. And we'll call this day. And I can make up everything from scratch. So 78 degrees, sunny, humidity, we'll put at 10%. And then put this behind our evening and night tab. Duplicate this, bring it in the front, drag it down. Evening, we'll make this 63% or 63 degrees. Cloudy, humidity at 34. Put this beneath, duplicate it one more time, bring it on top. For now, I'm just going to leave it here, change it to night. I'll do 53 or 53. Let's do 52. Clear. Humidity will be at 9. And let's just drag this down. And then I want to parent the text to the different layers. So I want the humidity text to be parented to night, the evening text to be parented to evening, the day text to be parented to day, morning to morning. So now if I bring up the position of morning, I can drag this up or down, and that works well. Now let's create the different icons. So one is going to be the sun, one is the cloud, and one is the star and the moon. So starting with the cloud, which is the easiest one because we've created this so many times, take your ellipse tool, change the fill to white, and let's just create clouds. So let's just create our little cloud. This might be too big. Rename this to cloud, bring up scale and make it smaller. And then put it right there. And I'll put this underneath our night tab. And let's just try to align it. That's pretty good. And I'm going to bring up the evening text. That looks good. And then I'm also going to press T and drop the opacity to like 25%. So you don't really see it until the tab is opened. See how the sun kind of pops on until it's opened? Cool. All right, next let's add the night. So to create a star, we actually have a star tool, which is cool. So select that and just click and drag and create a couple stars, however many you want. And then to create a moon, it's fairly simple. So I zoomed in here. Let's take our ellipse tool. And what I'll do is I'll create a quick circle like this, and then I'll take another circle and move it like this, so it's kind of overlapping. And with this one, what I'll do is change the color to the background. So now it just looks like it's a moon because the ellipse 1 is the white one and the ellipse 2 is on top. Now this created a new shape, so let me just cut these, Command X, and paste them into our other shape layer, and make sure that they're behind our other star layers, which is good. And I might need to move this star layer up just a bit. Okay, cool. Now let me rename this to moon, and then delete our shape layer. So now if we move this here and press T and drop the opacity to 25%, I'm going to parent this to night. And with the cloud, make sure it's parented to evening. One thing that will also help organize these is by keeping everything the same color for each tab. So if I select moon, night, text, and the night, then change the color, I'll just start with red. And then for these next three, I'll change it to lavender. And then for the day text and day tab, just make orange, morning, or let's do cyan. Okay, so now it's a little bit easier. Next, let's create our sun. Now, this is going to be a little confusing, so you need to follow along precisely with what I'm doing. So first, take your pen tool. We're going to create the sun rays first. Turn off the fill, so make sure the fill is set to none, and set the stroke to white, and 8 pixels is fine for now. Now, with no layers selected, let's go and turn on our title action safe and zoom in to our composition and just create a sun ray, just clicking once and then twice. So we have this little line coming from the center of our screen. Okay. So I'll rename this to be sun. So what we could do is just repeat that and create a bunch of different rays, which might be good. But I want to teach you how to use the repeater function, which is another tool that you can use to do all kinds of cool stuff. And one we're going to be working on in a future project too, to create fireworks. So underneath your shape layers, you have this add button that we've seen before, and there's this repeater option. When I click and turn that on, what happens is we have repeater 1 added to the contents underneath shape 1. And you'll see that 2 other lines were added. And so this is an easy way to copy shapes or repeat shapes. The key is that you have to make sure that your original shape is in the center of your composition, or this is not going to work. So make sure it's perfectly centered, or it's not going to work. I repeat, perfectly centered, or it's not going to work. Because, let me show you. What I can do is change the number of copies. So let's say we want 8 sun rays. And then we drop down the transform properties of our repeater. And notice that we have these settings for things like position, rotation. And what I'm going to do is first set the position to 0 and then the rotation to 45. Now that creates a circle of all of our sun rays. And why does that work perfectly for our 8 little lines? It kind of gets a little confusing, but if you divide 360 degrees by 8, you get 45. So, for example, if I wanted 9 rays, then I would change this to 40. If I wanted 10 rays, I would change this to 36. And you can see if I increase or decrease this, it can fan out. So divide 360 by the number of copies and choose that as your rotation, and it will become a perfect circle. Only if it's set up in the middle of your composition at the start though. Now what I can do is under my shape 1 layer, not under the repeater settings, I can take my transform tool and move the position out. Ooh, crazy. You can see how many cool types of effects we can create like this. So let's move it out like so. So we create the sun rays. Now I can take my regular ellipse tool, turn off the stroke, change the fill to white, and create a perfect circle and put this right in the middle. Cool. So now we have our sun, and let's take this ellipse, cut it, and paste it into our sun layer, and then delete this shape layer 1. And now we have our sun that we can put on, we can put on our morning and day. And let's make it a little bit smaller. And then, of course, with our opacity, drop it to 25. And then for the day, what we're going to do is just duplicate this and put it, and actually for the sun one, we're going to put under morning and parent it to morning. Change the color to cyan. And now for sun 2, I'm going to put this above our day. I'm going to move it down, and I'm going to make this partly cloudy. So I'm going to attach this to our day, make it orange. And then I'm also going to duplicate the cloud, put this down here, tab it up, maybe make it a little bit smaller, like so, and make it orange as well. And parent this to our day. Cool. And then for our day text, I want to make sure, and let me solo this so I can see what it says. I want to make sure it says partly cloudy now. Unsolo it. So now we have the basic app designed and set up, ready to animate. So I encourage you to follow along, get to this point, and then in the next few lessons, we'll start to animate and then build out the actual project that looks like this phone right here with the reflection and the animation. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in that video.